So hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the channel. So do not mind me, I literally just got out of work a couple of hours ago. Literally been like on like check-in mode, go through my phone over the last few like hours or so. Like it's literally nearly going to die, so I'm going to make this video extremely like quick and concise, but hopefully you get to check out my other Kingdom Hearts video. I've literally been like in the midst of doing a lot right now. So overall, like I'll occasionally catch up on like shows and movies, but it's been like constantly on the go. So while I've been on the go, I've been catching up on one of my favorite series, the Kingdom Hearts series, because honestly, talking about it like recently, and I kind of got back into the wave of like wondering what the heck was going on. So I've been watching like summaries and fact videos breaking down everything that went on throughout the series. So if you had a chance to check out the last video, I kind of went on like a whole spew about like how I freaking overall about all the connections we're like going through. But as of right now, I'm watching another video, and this video is made by 1 second.
Change fate itself and assassinate his delivery.
Very calming voice. I love it. Damo279. This is the YouTube name. By the way, I'm gonna have to go wish my cousin Damien a happy birthday. But I'll handle that after the end of this video. But in case you ever see this, happy birthday. So the video basis is like the timeline. So while like watching and like checking everything out and staying up to date on the story as I'm like currently trying to do right now, and again, don't mind me, guys. Normally I would like throw on some makeup or something, or at least like my outfit looks a little bit more semi-cash after work. I'm literally in my PJs, wrapped up in my freaking blanket right now, and I'm just gonna shoot a quick little vlog because I haven't posted any videos lately. Actually, I kind of have. I've been throwing up music videos, vlogs in general, some new beauty vids, and now I have vlogs of this category. So hopefully you've been able to check out all of them today and just like, listen to my random spews, my vlogs. They don't happen extremely often, but when they do, cherish them. Alright, so I'm just gonna jump into the whole topic because you guys know me and I usually won't pause it unless I'm doing a beauty vid, and then it's like editing mode. But if it's a vlog, you're literally just gonna go with me throughout the whole thing and just bear with me, We'll get through this together. It'll be like you're literally here with me right now and we're going through this and I'm having a whole conversation with you, and it's just a moment where I just need you to listen to me because I'm gonna tell you the tea and then you can react later. In this case, throw a comment if you want to react. And I'll still reply, like conversation. Cuteness. Alright, so the whole breakdown is the timeline, and the video that I ended up watching was the mysteries and the illuminations of the Master of Masters and its whole plan for everything and how the whole breakdown was supposed to affect everyone. So there's a point where if you watch Kingdom Hearts Key and you connected everything that's been going on and been staying up to date on everything, and there's so freaking much that we're still at like a plot twist point because on top of trying to figure out if they were in datascapes or if they were like literally in like their own individual world and like going to all the other Disney worlds throughout to like actually do something that would at some point be relevant to the story, which ended up being like essentially not relevant to the storyline's development with the battles, but it led to the development of the stories throughout each game in the series and like breakdown where they just give you like whole spews and like movies and stuff. It added to that because these other worlds where you go visit and check out like your typical little Disney bills and Disney characters and your Disney princesses, and you're saving them and helping them from like the heartless and the nobodies, and there's all this stuff going on. You would essentially think like that's irrelevant, but in all honesty that leads to the development of how each of the characters becomes that individual that they are, and they grow from all their experiences and how they affected those worlds and the princesses, and how it in turn affected them as who they were as an individual, which later helps the story develop that connection basis in which you really learn to connect and like a lot of the characters, which is really awesome. It's really cute of a series to literally #1 connect to our childhood, bring a little bit of, if you're a gamer, they brought Final Fantasy into it, so it's like you have people who've grown up with the Disney background, our favorite princess, our favorite princess. Sora became one of our favorite heroes over the year. You have the Final Fantasy game, which has been a popular series for years. Like that's literally like gaming royalty, so it's freaking awesome. So to be able to connect all of them is like literally like touching our hearts to this day because they're still adding recent additions like Tangled and Frozen have been added to part 3. Now just let that sink in. When they started this off, they had the classic that we all grew up with that came out years before we were born, or like during that era. If you know about it, you know about it. But we're talking like Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, oh my gosh, The Little Mermaid. Okay, The Nightmare Before Christmas. I played that out when I was a freaking child. Okay, Hercules, like Mulan, really? And these are just like the freaking classics that like were in there and that we all know are freaking super old to the point where we created live action versions of them now, to the point where the game has progressed so freaking far that they've added versions for nearly everyone and have updated certain of the story. It's like Hercules made it all through part 3. Okay, let that sink in. Hercules is like included in every game, no matter what the storyline is or the crazy breakdown of which you're trying to figure out what's going on. But Hercules made it to the recent part 3 edition, so it's just freaking awesome. Like this game came out like while I was young, so this has been like 15 years in the works type of project. And they released part 3 like a couple of years ago, and they're still going to be working on the next game of the series. So just let it sink in. It's crazy. It's amazing. But I'm just gonna bring you guys through the timeline for, and this is for anybody who's watched a Kingdom Hearts Key like breakdown and has played the series, and like you'll get this. Especially if you watched my last video trying to like decipher the Master of the Masters and how everything like took place, the whole darkness and all that everything. It's just really interesting. If you never counted yourself as a gamer, it's definitely a game worth checking out that you would love. Like this series, just overall, it's amazing. Like it's freaking this character Sora who's like really lighthearted and like adorable, traveling with Donald and Goofy. Okay. With all these missions involving like trying to find and connect with King Mickey in like the original series to like save all the Disney princesses that are like some of our mains, and then wake them up from their slumber to save them from oblivion in their sleeping worlds, and to save them from the darkness, and to stop. Well, I went to the full spoiler alert. Since I'm gonna drop the spoiler now, I should have dropped it earlier, but it's okay. To save them from Ansem, bam. But it's freaking amazing. Yeah, you should really check it out. And for Ansem, you're not gonna get that one, but if you play the game and you know the series, you'll of course get that. Okay, so I'm gonna bring it to the breakdown, guys, because I have it sitting over here, and every time I look over at it, I'm ready to jump to the conversation. And I find something else to freaking read about, but. Little breakdown. So it's breaking down what happened based off of Ava giving the book to Brain from what we know has taken place throughout the Kingdom Hearts Key series. Now, the timeline that they made was really adorable because it gives you the breakdowns of what happened after Ava gave the book to Brain and to Strelitzia. Now, the breakdown for what happened if Ava gave the book to Strelitzia, one is, as was written in the book, the world will be destroyed. Strelitzia is among the Union leaders that Ava chose as delegated by the Master written in the book. Darkness reads the list from the Book of Prophecies describing this timeline, which would be essentially what the Masters expected to happen, or should we say what's written in the book. Now, option number 2, timeline 2, after Ava gives the book to Strelitzia, the darkness gains the Book of Prophecies, and an imposter joins the group. Crazy, right? But that one leads to the plot twist of what happened to Strelitzia and what's going on with the Union leaders and everything like that. But wait, there's more, and I'll break down to why that is like something that I would deem as irrelevant if my theory pans out. It's really cute, just like. So, if Ava gives the book to Brain, Ava, this is timeline number 3, by the way. Ava hopes that something will change. Brain begins working as the virus, bringing about the downfall of the new union leaders and essentially the datascape that the new union leaders and their Keyblade warriors that are in the Dandelion ranks would be set for the downfall by Brain, who essentially will still gain access to the Book of Prophecy at some point, but that's not really relevant in its breakdown because it's not included in the description of who gets the Book of Prophecy, which is included in each other timeline. Crazy, right? And there's no imposter. Just keep that one in mind for timeline number 4. Now, timeline number 4 is described as our timeline, where Stelicia is assassinated, Brain has the Book of Prophecies, and Ventus is the imposter within the group that was, let's just say, given memories to believe that he was the one giving the book from Master Ava, when instead it was intended. Now this is where we're going to bring in timeline 1. The book was intended for Stelicia. That's who Ava was originally going to give the book to. Instead, Ava gave the book to Brain, hoping to switch what the Master already had written in the book so that there would be a deviation that they would all not be prepared for. Now, I'll go further into that in a few seconds, and then I'll end the video. That way I'll keep my ear forever. But essentially, so that would be Brain's role, how Brain gets involved. Stelicia is assassinated. Stelicia was supposed to actually get the book, and Ben gets the book. Ben joins as one of the new union leaders of the Dad Escape, and then ends up escaping at the end of it, which is really crazy. And I explained it in the last video, but you can also go check out this video that I'm recommending to you and get the whole spiel that's going to be like a breakdown. So, aside from that, with Ventus as our imposter now, Ventus is in the group, Brain escapes later, along with Ventus into reality, and Brain ends up actually being the one, not Lucio, to bring the box with Superbia, written as from the Latin phrase for pride or vanity, into essentially where the Keyblade War would take place without all the Keyblades there. Well, actually, no, they were. It was after the Keyblade War. Okay. And then in that whole cutscene that you see in the beginning of the like back cover, you see like Lucio going there and like, or in the Kingdom Hearts series. Sorry guys, just like completely bad with that one. Literally had to have a think about it for a second and say, hey, totally make sure I like quote the right one so when you go check out the clips you can actually see it. So you essentially believe that it's Lucio bringing the box up there as instructed by the Master of Masters with the Keyblade, but you later find out in Kingdom Hearts Key that that was actually Brain bringing the box out there after the Keyblade War, after Brain and the rest of the new Union leaders separated from Ava and everybody else returned to the world from the Dead Escapers, along with Ventus and everybody else. No matter what timeline they were sent to, they all escaped and were brought back into the world. So Brain, after meeting with Lucio at the last second, ends up actually being the one to bring the box out there with the Master of Masters Keyblade, essentially showing you that Brain was chosen to be Lucio's apprentice to carry on what the Master of Masters set in place that was set for later events in the future to take place, essentially. So after Brain gets there, Brain takes like the hoodie, that like casual like Organization 13, aka the Master of Masters freaking hoodie, and pulls it back and reveals that it is Brain and not Lucio. So for this whole time we've been thinking it's Lucio. It's not even Lucio, it's freaking Brain. And then which got everybody thinking, oh my gosh, maybe like Brain is Lucio, or like maybe Lucio got to Brain, and like maybe like Lucio in the future, that guy Briggs, is like actually like, that's like actually like Lucio possessing like Brain, and then like they live forever, and then it's like he became Xehanort's Heartless and nobody, and the Master of the Master, and it's just so many plot twists, it's like crazy. We're gonna leave it at this point to be like that early breakdown. That way I can just skip and explain to you why I made this whole video for you in the first place. Okay, so For timeline 1, 2, 3, and 4, I literally just combined them because just reading all of them, you won't really think about it as anything relevant. And the person who actually made it quoted themselves, or should I say, created their own caption that I'm going to use as a quote for what they said, as verbatim. Timeline 2 and 3 never actually exist. Darkness, such Abba, try to create them, accidentally creating Timeline 4. Now, essentially, if you look at it from a realistic perspective after listening to everything and how this story has been unfolding, and you get the mind ep by the end of it, alright, you're just gonna kind of throw all these together and just be like, don't even mess with me, alright? I'm interested to the max now. Super freaking good. Okay. So, when Abba gives the book to Strelitzia, the world is essentially still destroyed. Strelitzia is listed in the book as one of the Union leaders to be given the book, and most likely the one that is actually circled to receive the book. And Brain is switched at the last minute to throw everyone off, and then essentially after this happens, Darkness takes Strelitzia out of the picture and sends in the Imposter. Now, with Strelitzia being listed as among the Union leaders, the Darkness essentially throughout the book, and while explaining everything to Maleficent about future events that happen in the data space when Darkness is trapped within the data space with the Dandelions, okay? The Darkness came from everything that was going on during, well, let's say the Master's Master predicted it, and then the Darkness was formed within the hearts of the Keyblade wielders, the Union leaders, the original ones, and the oh my gosh, I've been talking for so long. 1 second. I literally had to drink some water. That literally just got me. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's been 17 minutes of non-stop talking. I'm so not surprised. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish this up strong. I like lots of what's. Okay. So the Darkness reads the list and notes about Strelitzia being one of the Union leaders that were originally picked, thanks to the book of prophecy that the Master of Masters wrote. Oh my gosh. Describing that timeline and how everything is supposed to go. Oh my gosh. Now, if we go by timeline 2, in which Abba gives the book to Strelitzia, the Darkness, I can feel it again. Okay, I'm just gonna talk like this. Darkness has the book of prophecies and an imposter. The imposter. Now we're combining all the timelines, so remember, it's gonna go into the hour timeline, timeline 4 breakdown. An imposter. The imposter was still Ventus. Okay, so that's the whole breakdown for timeline 2. Darkness has a book of prophecies and an imposter. So, by what happened in our timeline, timeline 4, Darkness had access to the book of prophecies well enough to know what was going to happen and well enough to be able to guide Maleficent after she traveled from the future to the past and was trapped in the data space to see that everything that she knew happened in the future would still happen to her, even in the data versions of the worlds. But then later on, she's like released from the data freaking space, and the only way out of there is to send your body back to like a future event in which people remember you and there's essence of you there for you to return back to create the vessel for who you'll be, which is your original self during that time period, but like youthful and everything again and all this good stuff. Anyway, she completes that and they send her back to the future, and that's how Maleficent pops back up in Kingdom Hearts 2. If you ever wondered how Maleficent just pops back up, because I know I did when I originally played the game, but it kind of pissed me off because I was like, I know we just defeated her in part 1, and I know she was one of the like main big bosses that were so freaking annoying. Oh my gosh. Outside of handsome. Oh my gosh. And he was handsome. Alright, so we get Ventus. Okay, so Darkness has a book of prophecies and an imposter. So Darkness has access to the book of prophecies and knew what would happen. Darkness knew that Strelitzia was among the Union leaders. Darkness read the list and was prepared for that timeline, and the world was still destroyed overall. So that's 1 and 2 checked off. Ventus was the imposter. Now, timeline 3, if Ava gives the book to Brain, Ava hopes something will change. Ava hopes something will change, which is why Ava, instead of letting fate course, gave the Book of Prophecies to a new Union leader out of the list of people that were picked by the Masters to be the new Union leaders within the Datascape after the Keyblade War that would officially be recruited by Ava to join the Dandelions and do so. So that covers Ava hopes something will change, and from timeline 4, Brain has a Book of Prophecies. Now, Brain begins working as a virus. For that one, it's like, what do you mean Brain's working as a virus? Well, Brain has a Book of Prophecies. Now, essentially, Brain was not the one written about in the Book of Prophecies to have the book at that point, which would set everything in motion for the future. Meaning that even though they deviated from the plan, to if it would end to any type of event that would change the circumstance of what would be to happen, essentially it did. But the Masters never fully included the whole breakdown of who, what, when, where, why, and how everything would happen. Instead, the Master just warned them of situations that would take place, and in trying to avoid them, they create them as a paradox to the inevitable fate that the Master warned them about. So then Ava hopes something will change. The Brain begins working as a virus, and by the end of it, Brain is like trying to get his friends out of the whole Datascape. But Brain has already become the virus, and essentially going outside of just being one of the Union leaders in the Datascape, Brain became the Union leader of the Datascape. That was picked over Strelitzia, who was assassinated timeline 4 again, which is the essential timeline. And now Brain has the Book of Prophecies. That's been reading it and studying it and analyzing it when Strelitzia would have been doing that originally. Because that's what the Master picked to go through everything that Brain ended up initially going through. But from the perspective of Strelitzia, because it's still another individual, so it would be expected that she would go through it in the same way that Brain did, but be Strelitzia. And Strelitzia's brother also happens to be a future Organization 13 member, Alicia. But that's explained in that's explained in the multiple videos in which this key is explained. Okay. And then for the other part, timeline 3, it stated that there would be no imposter. Oh my gosh. No imposter if Brain works as the virus. Now, Brain will essentially be the virus, and especially with the whole switch of Luxu actually carrying out its role instead of Luxu carrying out its role. Luxu essentially did give the Keyblade to Brain, but then Luxu had Brain hide the box, and keep the Keyblade, and like Brain pops up there and like pulls back the hood and still has the Keyblade, and it's no name and everything like that. So maybe like Luxu can get the pass on like actually passing off the Keyblade to Apprentice and everything. But Luxu didn't hide the freaking box. Okay, and if Luxu did hide the box, Luxu was never told to get involved as many times as Luxu did, and Luxu was also never told to have someone else hide the box after. While Luxu would like watch over from the sidelines, Luxu was told to watch over from the sidelines, hide the box, and pass on the Keyblade to another apprentice to keep it like going on and on, so the Master can watch everything unfold. So Luxu essentially betrayed what the Master set in motion. Ava betrayed what the Master had set in motion. Brain was used as a pawn that was switched in the role for what he was provided, so Brain essentially became a big virus. That was like the main alteration of the plan. With Brain's entry, it led way for Strelitzia to be assassinated, for there to still be a leader amongst the Union leaders, and for Brain to complete the prophecy of finding somebody that they thought was the traitor, which actually ended up being Ventus and not one of the original Union leaders.
Braid ends up actually taking the Keyblade and the box out to the Keyblade graveyard, which, again, as stated before, allows Lushu to be taken out of the picture. Rafa disappears, but defies the plan, picking Brain, going back to that one, which led to Brain picking Ventus as the imposter. Oh my gosh. The main virus part that got me is that Brain was controlling everything, supposed to get everybody out of the data state, and you kind of get lost at a point and wonder if Brain actually ever succeeded or what happened to Brain after. Brain spoke to Lucia. Because the scene after that is Lucia, or who we thought was Lucia, aka Brain, popping up with the box and the Keyblade. So it's like so trippy. But that's the whole comparison and combination of timelines 1, 2, 3, and 4 to create timeline 5, all of the above combined, in which they all lead to each other and create the time paradox that they were warned about but set in motion. Alright, you guys, don't mind my word jumbles. And don't mind my sore throat. Gotta stay hydrated and try not to talk for like 30 minutes straight without taking breaks and just speeding through. Alright, I got there. Alright, hopefully you guys like this video, and I'll try to keep you up to date on anything else that like just really gets me because I'm loving it. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.